Hello, everybody, and welcome to Turn the Page, Season 6, Book 6 of Choose Cthulhu. The Dreams in the Witch House.
Which
I don't
house?
know, with the Dunwich. There we go. Last book.
Ah.
Last book tie-in. Very, very good joke from me. You're welcome, everyone. The Dreams in the Witch House. So, I don't know. Why is it that it feels like not a big deal, you know? The other ones felt more scary and imposing. It's like the Dreams in the Witch House. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just doesn't scare me.
The other ones feel more like, unknowable, eldritch, like cosmic in horror. This seems much more mundane and terrestrial.
Yeah.
Like,
Just wake up.
All of the horrors that can be depicted in like a kid's parade for Halloween. Like, like a sheet over the top of you ghost, like that kind of, all of those are quite mundane. The bolts in the side of the neck, little witch's hat and a broom, all of those.
God.
You can't dress up as Cthulhu. No kid's doing it.
That's true.
No parent is dedicated enough to make a full Cthulhu costume. No one's turning up as Yog-Sothoth to any of those.
It's true. We need to change that. I do also think it's like, the fact that it's dreams and not nightmares too is just like also like, hey, yeah, that's not bad. Sure, okay, sure, I'll have some dreams in the witch house, like whatever. I don't know, it's not scary, but I'm sure.
Yet I feel like there is creeping malice in the background because what would a witch in this setting dream of?
Clearly,
summoning eldritch forces.
This weird ratman, this rat golem.
Yeah, I don't like this guy.
There is a big tentacle in the background too, I will say. I do see above Ratman, there is a big tentacle as well. But
and below him.
Oh, you're right.
It's encircling him, but not
true.
Not too tightly.
No, I
guess there might be a beast woven into the walls of this house.
They're friends. The suspense is absolutely killing me. Can we please read the I was going to call it the Beware page. Yeah, I'll just call it the Beware page.
Beware. Do you dare spend the night in the witch's house? Your belief in parallel worlds has led you to the mysterious town of Arkham, following old stories about a witch who claimed dominance over the secrets of time and space. But the mysterious kidnappings and rituals continue today. Will you survive the dream that whispers from the attic of the witch house? Yeah, we absolutely will. So, we might go a little bit mad.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, surviving is surprisingly, like, it's not that hard. Thriving is this. Hold on. Do you see this new mechanic?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We have the new mechanic, cultist points. Some pages will give you cultist points, or take them away. They represent the depth of your involvement with, and now we have capitals for each word here, things man was not meant to know. Keep track of your cultist points. They will affect your options.
How many cultist points do you think you have? How many points do you think you've collected of things man was not meant to know?
I grew up at the same time as the internet.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, I'm in double digits.
I think I'm up there. I think I am up there. But
I can't wait to die and take my forbidden knowledge to the grave.
No.
This dies with me.
No. Oh. Okay. All right. Well, I guess.
Of course, can't do that in this book. We're not going to die.
Exactly. Let me open up my my Microsoft Paint document for tracking.
I was going to track the cultist points if you wanted to go with the pages.
You can track the points. So I just got the pages. You just go for the points. You can have all the points. The things man was not meant to know. I don't know if you know this.
We're going to start at 99, and it is maximum 2 digits. So
okay,
let's go.
Your name is Walter Gilman. I'm disappointed.
No middle name?
I'm disappointed in our character already. I feel like.
Me too. Can we give him a middle name?
Yeah. What do you got?
Danger.
Your name is Walter Danger Gilman. You're an amateur scholar and an expert in both physics, aka punching through people, and mathematics, aka
dividing
numbers.
someone top half from bottom in and
So,
sing
yeah.
vivisection.
Yeah, and a little bit of addition of your fist to their face. Your gifted mind is set on uncovering the mysteries of the universe, following the most advanced theories. Nothing sates your ravenous hunger for knowledge, and you're willing to resort to whatever means necessary to understand the linkage of time and space. You think it possible that our reality is but one of many more, which are invisible to our eyes. You've been studying non-Euclidean calculus, which I wish I knew more about it so that I could make a violence joke, and quantum physics intensely for weeks in pursuit of a key to those other worlds. But it does not seem as if you'll be able to find it through traditional science. You've traveled to the seemingly unchanging city of Arkham with its gabled roofs that sway and sag over attics where, legend has it, witches hid from the king's men not so long ago. You've just arrived from Haverhill, Massachusetts, that is, and have enrolled at the legendary Miskatonic University, renowned for its incredible library of forbidden volumes. Keep reading on page 2.
I've been studying non-Euclidean calculus so I can understand how my fist and your face can occupy the same space at the same time.
There we go.
And then you punch him.
You're cooking that one up while I was reading. That's a good one. The short time you've been in the city has been enough to notice that its old Victorian houses are imbued with fantastic legends of primitive magic. The local folklore is mixed with a curious depth of multidimensional reality that soon gets your attention, for it seems to be directly related to your studies. As a theoretical physicist, you believe in the existence of parallel worlds we can't perceive, perhaps because they vibrate in a frequency unlike any that our senses can detect. This could account for the numerous ghost stories and apparitions seen all around the globe, as well as various unexplained disappearances. Perhaps the infamous city of Arkham holds the answers. If you wish to start researching traditional university books, turn to 37. If you think it's best to focus on local legends, 103. The fact that we have to consider cultist points now is interesting.
But also, having more of them might be better. Or less of them.
Yeah, or the right amount of them.
Well, yeah, you don't want to have the absolute most. I guarantee that you will drive yourself mad in that realm, but you gotta get a little mad so that you can understand a little bit of the world here.
That is interesting.
This character is interesting because they do specifically take an interest in this page, in the local folklore, and how that could tie into their studies. So I'm not certain whether this amateur scholar would go to the traditional university for the books or listen to the local legend.
I think they would go for the local legends first. They're looking for some danger.
Let's check it out on 103.
You get so many cultist points that you explode. Oh, man.
Damn it. We need so many that we're about to explode.
Since you have nowhere to stay and Miskatonic University doesn't seem to have much to offer, you return home to Essex County and head for the local archives. You conclude that the sinister city of Arkham has a negative effect on people, for the light headache you got from studying disappears once you've left the city. Could also have just gone away, but all right. You find that among the numerous legends about the city of Arkham, the most mentioned one concerns the case against the witches in 1692. Out of all those witches, the figure of old Keziah Mason stands out. Her flight from Salem jail remains unexplained. The infamous Keziah was a mean, despicable woman. She was charged with witchcraft alongside her monstrous partner in crime, a small, furry, white-fanged animal. I want to meet them. Who, according to local legends, is still seen
200 years later
in the vicinity of the house she inhabited at the top of Orns Hill. The reports include brief notes about undecipherable lines and curves smeared on the walls of her cells. The same markings were also seen in the dark valley of the white stone beyond the Meadow Hill, and in the uninhabited island in the Miskatonic River, areas supposedly used by a coven of witches. There are many interesting things to investigate. Those lines and shapes could be mathematical formulas, and a creature that still appears after centuries could have come from somewhere beyond time, or it could be a giant tortoise. If you want to search for documents on Keziah's trial, you can head to 63. If, on the other hand, you're more drawn to investigating the furry animal, 16. If you think you need to go directly to the house on the hill, try and find it on 80. Sorry, did I put my finger on the scale?
No. You revealed that you and I are leaning in the same direction here, so I was just going to take the reins to say, as with Grail Quest, when we decided that north was the cardinal direction for our character to travel at all times, in Goosebumps before it, we decided that we will always pursue the animal.
Yeah, always go to the animal and always trust the animal until the animal betrays us.
Exactly.
Those are the rules. Those are the rules.
Let it make the first move.
Of all the tales about the witches of Arkham, you are most intrigued by the constant reference to these terrifying beings they call familiars, abhorrent creatures from unknown places that fulfill the wishes of the evil witches as they help them complete their obscene rituals. In 1692, no less than 11 people testified that they'd seen a rat-shaped creature with a diabolically human, bearded countenance. Okay, well, still friend.
Uh-huh.
It had paws that resembled tiny human hands. Locals called it Brown Jenkin.
Brown Jenkin!
What? Am I supposed to know Brown Jenkin, or is this just a weird name?
I just love that as a name for a pet.
I do.
It's Brown Jenkin.
Especially because they described it as white fanged. Never mind. All right. The hideous creature, okay, rude, used to be seen on All Hallows Eve right before children went mysteriously missing around Orange Hill. It is said that the voice is like an unbearable laughter, and it could speak any human language. However, the most unsettling thing is that the tales about the sightings of this hideous thing still cropped up until quite recently. Could this creature be foreign to the normal passing of our time? Closing old history books, you try pushing away the feeling that you're gaining knowledge that you should not acquire. You win a cultist point. Use the word win.
They use the word win. It's good.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Maybe you should walk to the mysterious sighting spot on 72, or you could learn about Keziah Mason if you haven't already on 63. Although you can always go directly to the source of all this evil, the house where old Keziah was arrested on 80.
So I think are 72 and 80 both things that were
63 and 80.
63 and 80?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Do we want to get the lay of the land on additional information and then come back to this page to go there, or do we want to just go straight to the animal?
I'm worried if we go to another path, we won't be able to go.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
To the sighting spot. I have the fear.
Let's
that
walk
we will
there.
miss animal route. All right, to 72. But we also are probably, well, hey, we do want some points, so maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Arkham is a town intrinsically connected to black magic, and it's not unreasonable to think that this is based on some sort of primitive science, just as chemistry had its beginnings in alchemy. It's likely these so-called witches discovered a channel of communication with which they fancied was the afterlife. The logical thing to do here is to resort to news reports and the authorities to verify facts. However, you think it reckless to become involved with events that imply child abduction. Isn't it a bit sus to try and find kidnapped children? No.
I mean, they might think that you kidnap the children if you run around town talking about kidnapped kids.
If you run around town trying to solve a kidnapping, they're probably going to think that you're a kidnapper.
If I walk up to someone on the street and go, "Have you seen this child?" and show them a photo, they look at me 100% of the time and go, "You took them! You took that child!"
I'm reporting you to the police because you just confessed. Wait, what? Before going to old Keziah's house by yourself, you can go to the police and ask about bizarre disappearances reported near the hill and Miskatonic River, or you can head to the offices of the Arkham Advertiser, the local newspaper, and search for information about potential eyewitnesses. Newspapers on your own, 64. Go to the police, 52. So, a little bit of thumb on the scale. I do feel like the police would have dialogue.
True, but I also believe the newspapers would have excerpts.
That's, you know what, you're so right. 64. Wow, you're a genius. The offices of the Arkham Advertiser are oddly empty and silent.
How can I help you?
An old man asks you as he types slowly on his brand new Underwood typewriter. After a moment's hesitation, you tell him everything you know about old Keziah and local legends.
If I had $1 every time a madman tried uncovering the witch house's secrets, I wouldn't have to spend my day writing their obituaries.
He grunts ominously. The man eventually brings out a box with press clippings.
Orns Gangway's family request police protection. A group of parents concerned about cases of missing children near the river in Orns Gangway have asked Superintendent Farnsworth to assign civilians patrols during All Hallows Eve. We must remember that this is not the first time that wild animal attacks and disappearances of minors have been reported in the area. The superintendent has advised children not to, or advised parents, advised children to advise their parents not to let the children play by the banks of the Miskatonic River.
If you believe time has come to visit Orne, go to 12. If you think it might be best to visit Superintendent Farnsworth, go to 52. Notably, Superintendent Farnsworth is the police. Must be.
Oh.
Because it takes us to that page. It takes us to the police page.
Was it not 82 that the other one was?
I hope not. I wrote down 52.
Okay. Interesting. Well, yeah, I guess I looked at superintendent and immediately assumed it must be of the school, but the school person would probably not be the person to assign surveillance patrols.
Yeah, I know. Superintendent I don't think of as police, but I guess it probably is, I suppose.
Do you think he would know more?
Ask Superintendent Farnsworth to assign surveillance patrols. It's not the first time wild animal attacks. I mean, he might have information. I feel like he's not going to trust that it's, like, relevant information, but maybe he'll have some that we should get. But, like, I mean, I don't know. Let's do it, unless you were afraid of points.
I like it.
You walk to the police station in Orange District without a clear idea of where to begin. An officer sends you to Superintendent Farnsworth Wright, who resembles an office worker rather than a man of action. I can tell you that his name is Superintendent Farnsworth Wright. Yeah. You explain to him that you're looking for information about the odd disappearances in the area and rumors about the witch house in Orange Hill, and he lends you a kind ear, but he doesn't seem too enthused by this topic. At last, he walks to a pile of reports in the furthest corner of his office and drops it before you.
Here.
He says with a look of disgust.
Maybe you'll find something the rest of the police department missed.
Most reports date from sometime near Hallowmas. We got All Hallows Eve, and then Hallowmas. Okay.
So it's got to be. Well, I mean, the Eve is the night before, right? So
I guess it's All Hallows Eve, but the Hallow is Hallowmas and not Hallow. Okay. The majority refer to the sighting of a deformed being, a sort of giant rat with human-like face, snooping around houses and following the unwary at midnight. Although hunting expeditions were set up, it was never caught. Others talk about the disappearance of children from their own houses, at least a dozen. Several were found floating near the river island. You realize that you have a persistent stomach ache, and you start to feel dizzy. Maybe you want to press the police officer a bit more on 66, or you might decide that you know enough and go to the source of the evil on page 80. 100% we get points on 66.
Let's do it.
Okay, sure, yeah. That was so you're point happy.
We've only got one. We need more. It's lonely.
True. It bothers you that the police haven't properly investigated these strange occurrences happening near the witch house. Outraged, you say as much to the superintendent, and at first the man appears calm, but as your insinuations turn harsher, he seems to get upset. Your headache is now unbearable as you suspect that many of the words escaping your mouth are not actually yours. But Farnsworth doesn't take long to call in some colleagues when you grab him by the lapel and start shaking him.
You have to do something!
You cry desperately.
Things are happening in that house! Terrible things!
The police hold you overnight and then drop you at the hospital for a checkup. You wake up on page 77.
This is a pleasure sure in being mad, There is a pleasure sure in being mad, which none but madmen know.
Sitting in your cold, dark cell, you find plenty of time to think. Was it worth it? Now you know things that others don't. You understand secrets that never should have been unveiled to the human eye. And you can only scream, cry, and throw yourself against the walls of your padded cell. How you came here doesn't matter as much as how you'll get out. Doctors will perform the most modern healing techniques on you. Electroshock, hydrostatic pressure, and microtrepanation. It might hurt at first. You might even be scared senseless as the remains of your humanity fades. But eventually, the curious creature with the rat-like body and an old man's face that comes to lick your toes at night will cease to appear real, and you'll accept it as part of your uncontrollable dreams. The end.
You seem mad. I'm gonna drill a bunch of holes in your head.
Yeah. I mean, let's all the bad out. How else are you gonna get the bad out?
You're right. When you're right, you're right.
It's like
it's an abscess. The head is just an abscess. You need to bleed.
It's like you just gotta let it all out, otherwise it's gonna get infected or something. All right, so that's a loss. That's
a loss, absolutely. But I'm surprised that we were capable of getting to that loss which it seems
Yeah.
implies that we would have, like, this seems like a loss that you would get for having so many cultist points that you
know.
overwhelm yourself. But we have one, and then we just pressed the guy a little too hard. He was like, all right, go straight to hell.
I have a sneaky
not pass go.
suspicion that maybe 77 is a page that multiple bad endings lead to.
That would make sense, yes.
This feels general enough that we would be able to get it in multiple situations. In fact, multiple situations that shouldn't even be now, because the curious creature with the rat-like body, old man's face comes to lick your toes at night, you'll see superior real. It feels like something that it would be more relevant later. But,
Yes.
I mean, maybe not.
So should we instead decide we know enough and go to the source of evil rather than pressing Farnsworth?
We could definitely do that. Or we can go... What was page 12? Page 12 was an option we had as well. I'm trying to figure out what that was. Was it like going to Orn?
Yes, yeah, that's... yes, appears to be going to Orn.
You want to try that?
Sure, where is this one branching from?
That's a great question.
Oh, okay, this is coming
64.
from 64. Yeah, this is after reading the newspaper, deciding instead of going to the cop at all to go on.
I guess technically we don't have a clean path to that, so as not to break things, I guess maybe we should go to 80, because technically we weren't offered that again.
I mean, that will be the one that we have to default to once this takes us to a death, if it does.
Correct. The town of Arkham is drenched in an aura of magic and mystery that makes it dangerously lethal. You haven't got the slightest idea how you got to the street where you're standing. You're confused, completely alone in the dark corridor created by the ruins of houses, which seem to slant to form a sinister tunnel. Most windows are either boarded up or secured by a stout, mossy wooden peg. It reeks a mixture of a musty, old-age odor and some indescribable musk that has impregnated the stone. I don't love that. Stunned by a sudden and persistent headache, you cross the alley, dusting off your shoulders a gray ash-like powder that seems to coat the entire area. At last, almost as if banished by the rest of the buildings, the solitary and indescribable witch house rises tall at the highest point of the bare Orns Hill. Strangely fascinated by the building, advance to page 70.
It's kind of like a monkey and a turtle, but a frog?
You totter along past old houses which seem to beg you to stop, until you reach the foot of the hill. Not even a tree stump grows in the eldritch wasteland that surrounds the old Victorian mansion. The ground is dry and cracked, and only some yellowish grass moves in the wind of the cold sunset. The decrepit mansion towers from above, its windows boarded, seems like hunched. It's hunched by the weight of the years and the stories of evil that drip down its mossy old stones. And crouched underneath the black slate ceiling, the glass eye of the attic that harbored the horrors of old Keziah's practices stares at you. Are you sure you want this to be your new home? If you overcome your fears and resolve to rent a room, go to 59, or you can just reconsider all the madness and flee quickly to page 8. I mean, surely that is an L, right?
One has to imagine that's
It usually is.
Well, you walked away from the town.
You cheated not only the game, but yourself.
Exactly. I guess we go to 59 and rent a room, but why?
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like at any point we decided that we were, relocating here, that we were going to live here necessarily. I thought we were just scoping out the place.
Yeah,
I guess this is a very thorough scope.
Yeah, I'm just gonna scope the place out. I'm gonna buy a nice timeshare. I'm gonna settle down with a lovely lady. Get a job,
raise a family,
raise a few kids.
Get a dog, grow old, die there,
and then we'll figure it out. All right. Bravely, you cross the threshold, fearing or maybe hoping that the mansion,
now turned into a forgotten hostel,
is full and there are no spare rooms. But as you walk along the gloomy hall, you realize that no one except for the desperate would want to come and live in the witch house. Just as you enter, a deep headache comes over you, seems to intensify as you walk further in.
How can I help you? Are you lost?
A lady is broken down as the walls around you asks, Mrs. Dombrowski. The big Dombrowski is a Polish immigrant who bought a rat-ridden mansion, oblivious to the horrible heritage that it would bring with it. Her surprise turns to fear when you ask her if Keziah's Mason's infamous room is still available. When asked about the legend of the place, she merely says that you'll have plenty of time to discover it by yourself. Mrs. Dombrowski's husband is a decrepit old man who is lying sick in the basement, so you have to carry your own luggage upstairs. You climb the narrow, twisted steps with an anxious heart until, just when you think you'll die of exhaustion, the staircase comes abruptly to an end at a forbidding black door. Keep on reading on page 5, but it's forbidden.
I like that the stairs are playing a prank on you, basically.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you get to the end of your stamina bar, that's when we'll be done. But not before it.
That is good. As you walk into the disgusting garret, a sting of pain pricks your skull. You're about to collapse, but you push yourself to reach the iron bed. Every step makes the floorboards creak, causing a fluttering of wings above your head that becomes distressing. Before you can ask about the uproar, the woman has shut the door behind you, leaving the key on your side of the lock. Oh, that's nice. You could swear she avoided crossing the threshold. Crashing down on the foul mattress, you realize that you're in the dark, but you're too tired to light the oiled lamp. Seized by fear, you prepare yourself for your first night in the witch house. If you've won any cultist points during your investigation, go to page 109. If you've yet to experience the horror of the cult, go to page 42. Well, choice made for us in that regard. We have won a point.
We have exactly one.
A point. As soon as you shut your eyes, you are lost in the sounds of the house. Your headache becomes unbearable, but although you want to get up and run, you can't move from your bed no matter how hard you try. You feel as though something were on your chest, trying to prevent you from breathing. The creaking of the floorboards, the rattling pipes, the breathing of the tenants become unbearable. The breathing of the tenants? These are some thin walls.
Could you stop breathing? I'm trying to sleep.
Thank you. And to this is added the insistent ticking of a cheap alarm clock that rests on the mantelpiece of an unused fireplace. The distant, muffled murmurs of the rest of the city reach your ears. To be fair, they are breathing louder than the city, like the noise of the city. That is a little bit. Get that checked out. You might have sleep apnea. They all sleep happily while the night whispers terrible things that blend with the scurrying of rats in the wormy partitions. Soaked in sweat, you wake up quite early and without a second thought resolve to rummage through your room in search of a clue about the old Keziah's secret knowledge. Paradoxically, the room is quite wide, but of irregular shape. The north wall is slanting inward towards the core of the building, so much that the ceiling
Too low for your liking.
sags gently downward in the same direction. Apart from an obvious rat hole, I feel weird. I don't know. When you look at the word rat hole, does that make you
I almost want to
uncomfortable
pronounce
too?
it Rathol.
I know, Rathole.
Rathalle.
The chef has treated you to a nice Rathole this evening.
Oh, I haven't had Ratholi since I was a child.
There's no access to the space that must have existed between the slanting wall and the outer wall of this house, although you could have sworn that as you walked up the hill earlier, you could see a dimly lit window. If you think you should explore the house, turn to 83. Best to interrogate the tenants, 15. If you think you should just explore the room in depth first, go to 23.
I mean, I do have a lean to just explore the room we're currently in, the one that Keziah stayed in previously.
That does make a lot of sense to me. And also, then we don't have to go outside.
Exactly.
You near the slanting wall and something inside you seems to rattle, like the uneasy feeling you get when you get too close to the edge of the cliff. Looking at the odd angles it creates with the rest of the house, it doesn't take you long to guess its function in the witch's studies. Didn't you say it had gone beyond the limits of the world we know through certain angles? You just know that each time you focus your attention on the wall, your headache intensifies, and you start losing your ability to focus. Anguished, you leave the wall behind for now, certain it's got to do with the studies that led you here. But you'll have to learn more about old Keziah and her secrets first. Win a cultist point and try to stay alive. Go to the university on page 40.
Woo!
We won a point.
We've won 2.
You return to the university knowing that you're wasting time in that house. Although your previously permanent headache has abated, your appearance is appalling, and the rest of the students avoid you. Your lessons seem eternal, and you can only think of the accursed... So we're going to school here too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Your lessons seem eternal, and you can only think of the accursed room and its slanting wall. It's become a complete obsession, and you imagine that you can see patterns in the angles and curved slots on its walls. The days go by and your grades go down. You fail calculus and psychology. but your knowledge of math and physics impresses your professors. I mean, I'm so confused as to why this is here. I thought that, are we a professor? Is this one of the only books where we're not a professor?
I thought we were studying a student.
Oh,
at
okay. That's right. Because I was gonna say, in my head canon, we were already a professor, and we came here, and it's like you fail calculus and psych. But yeah, that I don't know. That would have been fun.
Well, I mean, you got to brush up. You got to keep modern.
Yeah. At last, one March morning, you receive a message from the Miskatonic librarian, Professor Henry Armitage. We know him. He wishes to see you in his new office at once. However, Professor Upham, what's up, Ham? Not much. How about you? Wants to discuss some aspects about the latest physics theories that could be of interest to you. If you want to meet Armitage, 95, stick to the scientific plane, 91.
I mean,
Old character reunion?
Old character reunion? We've seen Henry Armitage before. Have we been Henry Armitage before?
I don't think we have, but I think Henry Armitage has come up twice, and I thought we were Henry Armitage once, but I don't know if we are. I don't know if we have been. But we definitely, Henry Armitage has for sure been in 2 books.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone can help you figure out this mystery, it is undoubtedly old Professor Armitage. As head of the dangerous Orne Library, he has access to the unspeakable secrets. You meet on your way to the library, and he rushes towards you.
Ah, Mr. Gilman, I've been thinking of a problem that concerns you.
He says in a mysterious manner, and he confesses something that drives you insane. He tells you how almost a decade ago, in a village called Dunwich, he had a terrible experience with a thing from those dimensions you theorized about. Did we play as? Hold on. Were we?
Yes.
We were Henry Armitage last time.
Yes, but he was referenced previously as well.
That's what it was. He is the person who's master of letters in psychology. Yes. That's what I thought. Okay. Armitage is certain there are people that still make use of some unknown knowledge, so-called magic science, transmitted down the ages from antiquity. Armitage tells you this type of knowledge is quite dangerous, and in his experience, you should avoid it as much as you can. In any case, he heads for the secured vault of the library and hands you a thick volume written in Latin that is the infamous book translated by Olaus Wormius, the Necronomicon. But you should avoid it at all
Don't use
costs.
this, dear friend. Now, use this, dear friend. Not to open those eagerly awaited doors, but to close them forever. They will reach out to you. Don't walk into their trap.
You pick up the book and return to the witch house with another cultist point. Go to page 6.
Woo! Cultist point!
Whatever you do, do not explore this further. Now here's a tool to explore this further. But maybe.
Now, I don't want you causing trouble. Now, here's my gun, my hip holster, my bazooka, and Bowie knife.
And my list of targets. For nothing in particular.
Oh, it just occurs to me that all of these people on this list are also people that you really, really despise.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Interesting.
Live locations. Interesting. Don't do anything with those.
You walk along the dark alleys of the outskirts of Arkham, heading towards the witch house. You always get a feeling that you're being watched when you cross the puddles and the smelly passageways near the wharf. But today, your suspicions are confirmed. Leaving behind
smelly, like these books always evoke smell and scent.
I know,
but smelly seems like it's one step away from saying stinky.
I know it feels beneath the books for some. Yeah.
It does.
Leaving behind boarded up windows of still open shops, you see a hunched figure that's visible enough for you to notice, but far enough away so they can disappear if you try to chase them. It's an old lady dressed in grayish rags that blend with the dirty walls of the houses. You stop and try and distinguish her countenance a couple times, and regret it when you do. The evil stare of the sallow crone curdles your blood, especially when a large bat flies overhead. Once the creature's gone, you turn to the old woman again, and she's disappeared as well. If you want to hurry to the old mansion before nightfall, go to page 10. If you rather find out who that old woman that follows you is, turn to 38.
Yeah, what if we turn into a bat and follow her?
I would love to.
I just do think that would be fruitless. So I wonder if...
I feel like we'd get a point, but no no benefit, really. So I kind of feel like we just go to the mansion, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let's do it.
She has no aura. I'm not interested. You return to the mansion in an anxious state. Guess so. And you're not sure why.
What's new?
Well, yeah, this is okay. Try as you might, whenever you resolve to head directly to Orange Hill, you catch yourself trying shortcuts you don't know and which inevitably lead you southwest. It takes all your willpower to make it to the house, and when you reach the abandoned path that goes up to the mansion, you look at the sky and then comprehend it. It's the firmament calling you, the stars. When you try to enter the house, you see Mazurwicz? Mazurewicz, the religious fanatic that lives below your room, waiting for you. He looks distressed.
Gilman!
He calls in a drunken voice.
The light! Stay away from the violet light. The dreams are the key. The witch visits you in your sleep. She's chosen you. Take this crucifix. Father Iwaniki has blessed it for you. Take it or they'll take your soul. For some reason, being chosen.
An unbearable panic clogs your throat, and you run inside with Mazurewicz screaming behind you. If you wish, take the crucifix and go to 88. Wait, do we
And if you don't, stay on this page forever.
Yeah, what's the alternative? Maybe we can mentally determine whether or not we have it. I don't know. Yeah, we could decide later.
I imagine we just have to have it. It's just the way that we connect the pages.
At the beginning of April, you start to worry your fever is not 88? Is this right? At the beginning of April, you start to worry your fever is not abating. However, your knowledge of math, and in particular of the Riemannian equations, has multiplied exponentially. But you are immersed in one of those calculations inspired by the contemplation of your slanting wall. Do you ever get so fixated on a wall that you get just really deep dive into math to figure it out? That is
closest is I've seen a slanting painting that's driven me mad every single time, because anytime I straighten it out, it still straightens itself back poorly.
Yeah, usually that's an issue of like the nail isn't centered, or like
I think it's our whole house is on a slant.
That also happens. I've also had that, but not the nails not centered. The like the strings are not, depending on how it is. I've had that. It bothers me deeply. You are immersed in one of the calculations inspired by the contemplation of your slanting wall when someone knocks on the door. You open it and reveal your classmate, Frank Elwood. By the look on his face, you realize that your appearance must be dreadful.
Goodness, Gilman! You look like a walking corpse!
Acknowledging the compliment, you ask him what brings him to your room after so many months. For even though you two live in this dirty hostel, he hasn't shown any manners to pay you a visit.
Well, my friend, quite concerned about your problem,
he says, nodding.
You're sleepwalking. You know your room is just above mine, and every night I can hear the tread of shod feet. Unless you've got yourself a goat and you've hidden it somewhere, I'd say you pace in your room at night. Good Lord. Frank, that's unsettling. I swear my clothes and shoes are precisely in place when I wake up. Then take care, because the alternative is that someone or something is coming to visit you at night.
I'll admit, this would freak me the hell out.
Oh, absolutely.
That would get me.
I'd move. That's instant move behavior right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You heed Elwood's warnings and and formulate a plan to figure out if you're really sleepwalking. Go to page 105. I think we know
Yeah, if they're in the exact same place.
I think we know if we're sleepwalking. I think we know we're not. I think it's a little rat man.
Yeah, just leave a little note, like a little basket of cookies out for Brown Jenkin.
Some little cheese, and some peanut butter and some cheese, and a comedically oversized rat trap.
Oh no!
I'm not for real.
I'm only thinking of the one from the end of Mousetrap, where it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It just keeps them there, so you can make friends with them later.
Yeah, I have these little. We have these mouse traps where it's just like it's a tube, and once they walk in, it just closes, and then we put so much sunflower seeds in there, and honestly, they live the life, and then we take them out to the park and let them out.
That's a buffet and bed. That's a bread and breakfast you're providing.
I know. But we have to. That's why, like, we provide them with such a good experience that we have to take them really far away. Otherwise, they come back. So we have to take them real far.
Just taking like random lefts and random rights to try and get them disoriented in the car.
Yeah.
Tiny little bags over there.
They have a really good sense to get back. It's wild. You agree with Elwood that if he were to hear those strange footsteps again, he will come up and see what's happening. He gladly accepts. He also suggests sprinkling flour in the corridor to see where you're heading at night, since your room has only one door. The only other option is the window to the void. What happens over the following 3 nights lacks any explanation. Elwood swears he ran up when he heard footsteps, thinking you wouldn't mind being awakened in the midst of your sleepwalking, but when he entered your room, he found it empty and your clothes neatly folded in their place, which means that you'd been walking barefoot in your pajamas around the mansion, but disconcerting is the fact that Elwood couldn't see your footprints in the flour. If Professor Upham has handed you a list of names, go to page 7. Otherwise, go to 69. Or if you come in contact with the Necronomicon at some point, turn to 53. Well, we have.
We have indeed. You mean Olaus Wormius's Latin Necronomicon? The very same? His Latin translation, of course, of the Necronomicon.
So Professor Upham could have given us a list of names. Did he actually? He didn't give us a list of names too, did he? Or did we? Did we seriously?
We didn't even see him.
That's right. We just memed the list of names into existence, and that's why I was like, did that come from somewhere? Like, was that joke from based off something that happened? But no, I don't think so. I think it's just coincidence. So 53, though, it doesn't seem like we really have a choice in the matter. From some of your conversations with Professor Armitage, you learned that in many cultures, dreams are considered portals to other worlds. I played Psychonauts. From the forbidden knowledge you've gathered from Abdul al-Hazred's infamous work, you know that some passages show a way of controlling these so-called portals. You're completely convinced that Keziah Mason has somehow hidden on the slanting wall the formula to open the portals to the world of dreams. That is why your mind won't do it consciously, and the complex equations needed to bend time and space are only resolved during the REM sleep phase.
Yeah, I had an REM face.
Yeah, me too. In the following nights, you perform a series of rituals to enable the opening of these portals. Although you know full well that using this ancient magic is a mistake that might doom not only your soul but your physical body. You win another cultist point, and from now on, you fancy yourself able to control your own dreams. That seems useful. Go
Absolutely.
To 69. Sorry. Okay, we'll get there. After speaking with Elwood, you are certain your nightmares go beyond an ordinary dream state. You start taking notes of your astral projections and even attempt inducing these blood-curdling dreams. During the night of April 19th through 20th, you experience one of your vivid nightmares through shapeless abysses. You float with the bubble mass guided by a polyhedron that floats ahead, and you see oddly rectangular angles by the edge of the abyss. A moment later, you have left that distorted immensity, and you stand on a rocky hillside bathed in an intense green light. Now you notice that you're barefoot in your pajamas, and your pants are down, and you're giving a presentation at school, and they're laughing.
No, not at my tiny butt.
My little bum.
No.
But at least you have returned to your human shape.
Just covering it with one finger.
You can even feel humidity soak in your body. A swirling fog conceals everything at ground height, and you can barely lift your feet to take a step. A distant cacophony frightens you. It seems to come from somewhere in the fog, like 2 monstrous creatures communicating with each other in beast-like voices. Suddenly, 2 shapes advance towards you, the old woman and the furry animal. The woman's arms are crossed abnormally as if her joints bend in unnatural directions, while the furry animal, Brown Jenkin, points you towards the source of these horrible noises. If you have somehow learned to control your dreams, go to page 28. Otherwise, keep reading on 44. Gee, I think we somehow just literally did the page prior.
Legitimately. So multiple pages would land here,
Yeah.
not all of which giving us the ability to control our dreams. It feels like we've weaved a perfect path so far, though.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe they all feel that way until we get smacked by something. As the witch's monstrous servant points you to the void, you understand that for some reason these creatures can't stand your presence here. An incomprehensibly strong force starts pulling you away from the hill, which you now recognize as a wild and living alien version of the hill where the witch house stands. You put up resistance to being expelled and fight the manipulation of these 2 beings. This seems to upset the bedlam considerably, and she marches towards you, but it looks like it takes a great effort, as if she's wading across an ocean. Although scared, you stand your ground. The howls you heard in the distance seem to inch clearer and nearer, just as old Keziah does. The wrinkly, oddly nailless hand of the crone comes closer to your chest as if in slow motion, and you can't help noticing her age-worn features. She stares at you, her face twisted by a hateful grimace. No lids cover her eyes, and her pupils are veiled by the passing of time, curtained by the cataracts that turn them an opaque gray. Keep reading on page 11. Now it's you who tries to walk away, but you can't. A violent push sends you flying in the opposite direction. You roll downhill. When you manage to stand up, the two creatures are nowhere to be seen, and you find yourself in a different place. Somewhat disoriented, you set walking on a dark plateau covered in a dense fog that spreads evenly in every direction. Something's changed in this nightmare, the feeling of reality so intense that you notice you're wearing the same clothes you went to bed in. You're in your underwear and lost in a quagmire with no point of reference. For real, that's actually with no way to orient yourself. The sky is a foggy whirlpool of gray that vaguely resembles the cloudy formation that preludes a storm. Eventually, after a long walk, you hear voices and laughter coming from a raised point on the fog. You stop and you stare. It's a group of children playing fetch with a dog. If you wish to walk to the children and their dog, turn to 48. If on the contrary you think it's best to walk away, go to 32.
Animal!
It is animal. I feel like the likelihood that it's going to go well is low, and yet, obviously, we do it. Animal. Mistrusting, but glad to see other human shapes playing in this moor, you run to the islet where the kids are playing. You advance clumsily, tripping over the bushes that cover the ground. They stick to your pajama bottoms and scratch the soles of your feet. I thought we were in our underwear. Eventually, you see there are about a dozen children. Their skin is shadowy. They seem unkempt. They throw a large bone to the dog, and it keeps bringing it back. One of them throws it in your direction, and the dog sprints after the bone. You look down. The bone is a piece of a femur, from which,
To your horror,
rusty nails stick out in all directions. I don't love this. Actually, there are not any nails in it. There's no nails in the femur at all. And the dog...
You look down at the femur and to your horror realize it probably tastes really, really bad.
Really bad.
Icky.
And-
Not like health bad, but like it's like, bleh.
Ew.
I don't like it.
And the dog gets to it and clenches it in its jaws to fetch it. You shout, begging him not to do it because it's so stinky and gross. And the look on his face as he bites the stinky bone is bad because he clearly does not like the way it tastes. But luckily, this is all a dream. Or is it? Do you want to face the children and put an end to this torture? Go to page 36. Or do you think it's best to flee from here as soon as possible on 14?
I murder the children.
That was so quick.
Oh, I decided a while ago.
But Rams,
I can take him. A dozen?
It's just
They're
a
shadowy and
stinky bone.
unkempt.
It's just a stinky bone. Like, you stand before the animal and the horde of children, and they come to gather around you. There's more than a dozen. They appear to be abnormally tanned, although you cannot see them very well through the fog. You're certain this was a stupid thing to do, but after all, you're just dreaming.
Go away!
You shout at them.
Go! Or I'll have to hurt you!
The children start cackling in high pitches that gets on your nerves. Then the dog you were trying to protect stands and begins to walk to the ring, dragging its hind legs. But it's not the children that it's headed for. A dark, elongated creature emerges from the fog, a featureless and completely black, shadowy man who must be well over 6 feet tall. The children make way, and the dog, now turned into a vaporous, deformed hound, lies by the feet of the newcomer. Before you can even react, you start moving towards him, or rather, everything around you moves in the opposite direction until you're face to face with the gigantic being.
You are mine, Mr. Gill.
Black nails scratch at your wrist, and 2 drops of blood fall on the creature's hand. Win 2 cultist points. And go to page 44. Okay. How many points do we have?
Total of 6 at the moment.
Are we winning?
Are we? I think so. We can control our dreams.
That's pretty good. I'd spend 6 points for that.
Hmm.
Moved by an inexplicable force, you crawl forward, following the trajectory traced by the creature's arm. You feel as if you've been expelled from the desolate landscape and have returned. You fall down a dizzying spiral until you wake up in your bed. You open your eyes to see your neighbors around you, and you're flailing and shaking like a madman. Joe Mazurowicz stands against the door, praying for your soul.
You must leave, sir!
He shouts at you when you open your eyes.
The light! The light!
He keeps rambling as he points at you with the crucifix.
Easy, Joe.
Paul Choinsky, another tenant, stands between you and the zealous Joe to calm down the situation.
Joe just been celebrating Patriots Day last night when he returned and saw a violet light coming out your window. A violet light?
You ask, oblivious to what they mean.
The light that accompanies the witch when she appears to reap a soul! Everyone knows that!
Concerned, you start to ponder as your neighbors leave. That light is undoubtedly familiar, but you've only seen it in your dreams. How is it possible that Mazurowitz noses about it? Go to page 99. How does he noses?
As he knows.
After this experience, you get the feeling that you know the place your nightmares took you to. In the following days, the urge to travel southeast becomes an obsession. Before you know it, you're looking that way. You spend days fighting the need to sit for hours long looking at the vacant spot on the bedroom floor, right where the wall meets the rotten floorboards. When you do so, you suffer vertigo and an inexplicable headache. This is clearly related to the attraction that pulls you southeast. And then you have a revelation. The stars. There's something in the stars that's calling you and needs you at once. Early in March, you have a nightmare unlike the rest. You see the usual purple light dripping down the slanting wall, and you're awakened by an unnatural brightness that combines yellow hues with a beam of indigo blue. It pours on you like a waterfall. Continue to read on page 82. You are lying on a terrace that is very high. The balustrade around you hardly makes you feel any safer. At your feet rises a jungle of outlandish peaks and minarets of absurd shapes. You're at the top of an endless city lit by 3 suns that you fancy hang from a celestial sphere-like lamp. You cling to the balustrade in fear and snap off one of the adornments, a barrel-shaped figure with knobs sprouting from where the head should be. The slender arms radiate spoke-like from a central ring to create, along with the legs, a starfish-like formation. The floor is covered in black slabs that burn your feet when you stand. Then you hear a bestial howl coming from a gargantuan thing that approaches from a distance. If you've gained over 4 cultist points, head to 107, otherwise go to page 60.
Oh, I have good news.
Yeah.
We have 6.
Yeah. Is that good news? We will find out. You look up and find the skies are turning a more vibrant purple. The shining of a sun distant from ours makes way through the clouds until it takes up nearly the whole firmament. The crone and her monstrous companies catch up to you, and you point to the splitting skies with fascination. They smile, delighted, and you laugh. Suddenly, from the surface of the blue sun sprouts a shapeless amalgamation of slimy tentacles covered in blisters and protuberances that open to form a myriad of something like eyes that seem to stare at you. Dark secrets you cannot comprehend fill your mind. You see places and beings so blasphemous they escape your consciousness. You win 6 cultist points for contemplating the unnameable, and you scamper away to page 35. 6 more points, eh?
We contemplated the unnameable. That takes us to a total of 12.
Yeah. Again, the roaring abysses of the shapeless void open before your eyes, and you end up in the middle of a swampy alley that looks familiar. You're on your feet, wearing your pajamas, in front of the rotten door to a 4-story building that looks abandoned. But it's actually inhabited by the poorest of immigrants who cram the outskirts of Arkham. The man in floating garments stands in front of you. Brown Jenkins nuzzles the ankles of the man like an affectionate pet. The featureless man points at the door, and old Keziah crawls into a hall of dented walls. Dragging you by your pajama sleeves, the witch leads you to a landing where you hear, although you fail to understand, cries and prayers. The witch orders you to stop, and she breaks into the house, with a muffled scream reaching your ears, and a few moments later, she comes out with an inert shape that she deposits in your arms. You can't stand the sight of this bulge, or the perverse laughter that the sharp-toothed little monster in response to the cries comes out, or the perverse laughter of the sharp-toothed little monster in response to the cries that came out of the bag. If you've gained over 12 cultist points, go to 101, otherwise wake up on 94.
So, we have exactly 12, not over 12.
Yeah, we've not gained over 12, so I guess 94 it is. Maybe this is good. 94? The screaming neighbors wake you up in the morning. It seems the 2-year-old son of a Polish laborer named Anastasia Wolesio has been kidnapped, but you are most surprised by the statements of the witness who claimed to have seen the culprits wandering around the area. An extremely tall black man, an old lady dressed in rags, and a boy in his night clothes. You're gripped by fear and cannot think of anything else. Now it makes sense. The nighttime visits, the sleepwalking, the figure, the dreams in the witch house are real. The crone has come to visit you and has taken you with her through time and space. That night, Mrs. Dombrowski secures all the doors and windows. Rumor says the coven will meet up again in Meadows Hill, but your neighbors will make sure no one dares to approach you. They stand guard at your door, and Mazurowicz prays relentlessly. But as the night progresses, an on and off sound starts to muffle everything else. You see how Elwood falls fast asleep, and right before you lose consciousness, you hear someone at the door. Go to 96. The twilight abysses started flaming before you again, and 100 iridescent hands pluck you from your bed and throw you against the rotten wooden floor, in a small room with a sagging ceiling and drawers full of books. On a desk is the white figure of a naked and unconscious baby. The old woman with dead eyes is standing by the baby's side, singing a tune in a language you don't know. Just then, the little being by the name of Jenkin emerges from a triangular gulf on the floor. The Beldam hands you the bowl. Beldam hands you a bowl and signals.
Oh, it was just in case, because previously it could have been Bedlam spelt wrong in the place, but here I had to look up Beldam last time because I hadn't seen the word before. It literally means a malicious old woman. Like,
Rude.
She's evil and old. What a Beldam.
Hands you the bowl and signals to you to hold it in a certain position over the triangular gulf. You can't believe your eyes. Old Keziah holds a large ritual knife with a serrated blade over the child's head as the rat bat Jenkin holds the baby with his tiny humanoid hands. A deep sense of horror makes its way through the mental paralysis you suffer. You drop the bowl with a resounding bell-like clang. You pounce upon the old woman and wrench the knife from her hands, casting it down the gulf where the muffled howls of a summoning chant emerge. Seeing that you freed yourself from her powerful enchantment, the crone's murderous claws lock themselves around your throat. If you found a crucifix in your investigation, go to page 20, otherwise 106.
Father Mazurowicz gave us one.
I think that's it.
I've got it on my inventory. I got a little cross here.
All right, page 20 it is. In a superhuman effort, you manage to slip your hand underneath your shirt, and pulling on the metal symbol with all your might, you break the chain and produce the crucifix. Upon seeing it, the witch shrieks in fear, loosens her grip long enough to allow you to escape her claws. You grab the Beldam, word of the day, by her hair, and large locks come off as you drag her to the triangular abyss that you now comprehend is nothing but the slanting wall you were so drawn to. It's a door. You twist the chain of the crucifix around her neck tight enough to cut her breath, and at the same time you feel how the monstrous brown Jenkin has run to his mistress's aid. Biting your calves with determination, a swift kick sends it over the edge of the gulf, and you hear it splat against something gelatinous. Whether you've killed the witch, you don't know. But she's no longer putting up a fight, so you leave her sprawled out on the floor. You're so immersed in the fight against the two monsters, you fail to realize that Brown Jenkin had gone for the helpless boy that lay around on the table, and the metallic receptacle is now full of innocent blood. In your delirium, you still hear the sinister laughter of the Shadow Man echoing in the distant infinity. Then the violet light goes out, leaving you in absolute darkness. Go to 79. With a scream of help that shakes the masonry, you wake up in your bed, convulsing violently. Soon, the local practitioner, Dr. Malkowski, gives you 2 injections that leave you fast asleep. Maybe if you had been able to talk, you would have refused. But not only are you blind, you're deaf and dumb, too. Wow. Your eardrums were ruptured by the impact of a thundering sound. You're driven out by the horrible room to stay at Elwood's. He's convinced the only solution is to take you out of the house as soon as it can be arranged, which he'll do when the sun rises. Mazurowicz notices your crucifix is gone and that you somehow have some odd burn marks on your throat. However, the horror is not over yet. Interrupting the plans of the sinister creatures that conspire from beyond time carries a punishment proportionate to your insolence. You start convulsing violently. Grunts and chants of an inhuman nature will escape your mouth. A great red stain appears on your blankets, and Elwood can only run for help in holding you down. Dombrowski, Choyinski, the Srochers, and Mazurowicz, are barely able to hold you, and then, with a last brutal howl, you arch your back, and a small furry animal jumps from the blood-stained sheets and runs towards the stinking room. You weren't fast enough to escape. Your sad life is over. Go to page 111. After what happened to you, the house was never rented again. It didn't take Dombrowski long to abandon it, and its final decay came soon. They used so much poison to kill the rats that had pierced your chests that the house turned into a real nightmare for the neighbors. The stench was such that demolition was ordered. Your dreams and investigations never found any explanations, and good old Elwood had to be admitted to the Arkham Asylum for a long stay. It is true that neither Keziah nor Brown Jenkin were seen after your death, until March 1931, when a gale wrecked the roof of the great chimney of the witch house. Word has it there were badly crushed. Word has they were badly crushed and splintered bones, clearly recognizable as human amidst the ruins. Some of them belonged to a young child, and others, found mixed with dusty rags, belonged to an elderly woman. Among all this, there was a silver crucifix that had somehow prevented a metal receptacle with strange symbols etched on it from falling through an ominous rat hole in the floor. The end.
That seems extremely positive. It seems like that was the only path of like things that would allow us to avert the apocalypse.
Yeah, it sounds like we were basically we were taken to almost like the future, a future parallel universe where we were the one who stopped it. We did get punished for it, but we were a hero nonetheless. So,
unfortunately, good old Elwood is driven mad by his like quite meager encounters with the arcane.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
he doesn't have 12 cultist points. What's he complaining about?
Yeah, what's your problem? I do wonder if I feel like I can't picture that the route with over 12 cultist points is better. You know, one would imagine that it's.
I would have had to imagine it would have been the death, right? Like coming to it from a page that just gives you 6 as well. I feel like it is remarkable that we did not have more than 12.
You know, I'm gonna hit you with a little bit of a hot spoily. Takes us to page 77, which is the one that I told you we could get back to.
Oh,
so that's kind of funny that that our very first possible death that we got would have also been the last one, and it would have made more sense in that scenario. But we did it. So that was a success. We truly towed the line perfectly, I guess, because literally one more spooky point and we would have been toast.
Well done. We were pretty much right? Like too much bad, too little bad, obvious. I'm glad that we managed to thread the needle.
Yeah. I'm just checking. I really love the line. Win 6 cultist points for contemplating the unnameable is such a metal line. All right. Hell yeah. I really liked it. I feel like as weird, like looking at this this graph I have here, as weird as it all was, I think, I feel like we might have taken a pretty clean route through this. Aside from the fact that we got to 77 early, other than that, like, dang. Yeah, not a lot of backtracking. And I wonder if that's due, like, that could be due to the format a bit. Like, they might have that thing where, like, if you don't have that many points, they give you some more points. If you have too many points, like, you go down a route where you're not going to get too many more points. So, like, it might be that kind of thing where, like, it's harder to fail than it seems. But I'm just going to say we're great.
Can I spoil an additional thing I've discovered? There is an option for high cultist points that takes you to a different ending, but the different ending has a mechanical implementation. I'll skip all of the story on this page to note the ending a bit. Congratulations, you helped your mistake transcend time and space. From now on, each time you read this book, you'll start with a cultist point. You can never erase, no matter what you do, for your soul is cursed in all planes and realities. The end.
That's pretty funny. I like that. Well, hey, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. And I guess I didn't mention it up front because it's kind of like, it's only half true. This is our finale for now, which is weird to say because there's the successful Kickstarter. We're going to be getting for sure 4 more books. There are 14 books listed on this like beginning page here. So I would imagine at some point we are going to be getting another 4, But
Mhm.
I'm sure we will be back to do like the next batch of 4 or whatever when it seems logical. Like probably when they're all out, I would imagine, but who knows? But I really, really enjoyed these. I really did.
Absolutely same. This also had like a structure that I really enjoy of like picking things up, alternate paths, like alternate directions for those things, rather than a centralized hub area that gives you the ability to come back
Yeah,
to it.
I agree
I just
with
feel
that.
like it gives the narrative a lot more ability to like weave itself in. You'll like note multiple times as we hit a page, it was like, oh, we could get to this page from multiple areas, whereas that's
Yeah.
not always relevant in the choose your own adventures. I like
Yeah.
when it is.
Yeah. And I feel like doing this kind of path, but having that extra system of the cultist points, like it was such a simple little way to make it be like, well, should we go for that? Like it makes you not want to just take the completionist route a bit, which I think a lot of these books could, a lot of the kind of like, especially the more choose your own adventure format of these game books that are kind of like towing the line a little bit. I think they could use that. I think they could use a little bit more of that, kind of like encouraging the player not to go completionist, because it just feels like that's the right call in almost every book, and it feels silly to not.
Yeah.
And I think it was fun to weigh that.
Especially if you give the player like, you know, a soft inventory system, the feeling on the player's behalf is, I now need to interact with everything available so I can get all of the puzzle solving tools so I can interact with all of the puzzles in the future.
Yeah.
So having alongside that another system that encourages the player not specifically to do that, I think is great. Some games do it by giving you items that have negative interactions and things like that, but I think this feels much more intuitive and much more similar, much more familiar to the cosmic horror setting. Through like track this stat, you're getting madder and madder.
Yeah, I feel like I hope that some of the future books, I would enjoy if all of the books used it from here on out. I'm not sure if they will or not. I will note that this one was written by Edward T. Riker, who did At the Mountains of Madness as well, but also notably is doing book number 7 and 8. So the next 2 books that will come out are going to be by this writer. So huge hope that is a route they're going to be taking. So we'll see. Only time will tell. The Kickstarter was successful, everything like that. The books are going to be coming out. I think it's going to be 2025, maybe the first one's coming out maybe early 2025, something like that. But we'll see what happens. But hey, I guess another thing to mention is we do know what we're going to be doing next week.
We do.
And you know what, Raps, do you wanna spoil it?
Absolutely. Avid listeners themselves will also know that the last time we read through a particular novel on a particular holiday, we noted that it has very, very different paths based on the direction that you're playing. This is the book Dracula. The turn to page version of Dracula. What exactly is the full title for it?
It was, I believe it's just called Dracula, but it's Jonathan Green's Ace game book version of Dracula. So
yes,
like, but
where previously we chose to play as one of the main characters, Jonathan Harker, who is obviously not a vampire and is starting to investigate vampires, but you can also choose to play as Dracula.
Yep. So this year for Halloween, we are going to be reading through that book. But like it's basically it's literally like 2 books, 2 completely separate big choose your own adventure books in the same book. And we're going to be reading the other book, basically, which is Dracula. We're going to be Dracula. That apparently, like, it's kind of nice because it's like it's been a year since we read it the last time, which is crazy to think about. It's been a year since that. So like, I believe we're going to be doing basically the villainous side of the same story that we did last year. So it's gonna be kind of interesting. I'm excited about that. But
I always really like stories like that where like multiple stories are happening at the same time and you interact with elements of the other story. Like I imagine encounters that Dracula had with these people. Like, for instance, in Harker's earlier diary entries, I believe a lot of them mention, like, I think I'm being stalked. I imagine we might stalk him.
Yeah, we'll probably be. Yeah, exactly. I remember that too. There was a lot of that, and I'm sure we are the ones that are going to be watching. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So at the time of hearing this right now, if you didn't go listen to the other, episode for Dracula, you're going to have a nice 2-parter for this Halloween. Otherwise, you're going to have that coming out. You probably don't need to hear the other one to enjoy this one, but it probably would be more enjoyable if you have. Who knows? We'll
Definitely
see.
enhance the experience.
I'm sure it's probably one of those things where it enhance it, but like you can read through the book from Dracula's perspective for the first time, so I'm sure you're not going to need to know the other stuff. But it was good, so you should, because it was good. But alas, not to take up too much of the time from Choose Cthulhu, but I think it's one of those things where it's kind of weird because it's like it's not a full season wrap up really, because it's kind of like a to be continued in a way. But this is our temporary season finale for Choose Cthulhu, but it's going to be like a nice little friend that we will come back to as it is relevant for us to do so. But hey,
well said.
Alas, do you want to thank our wonderful patron or assistant producer? No, our full producer for this episode.
I'll do that. Hell, I'll even thank the executive producer of the episode on the Turn to Page Patreon. That is, of course, patreon.com/turntopagecast. Specifically, I hope I'm not beating a dead horse by saying so, the executive producer of the episode is Dead Horse.
Oh my God. Thank you, assistant producer, executive producer, Dead Horse.
Yeah, full vertical integration of the production department. Everyone through Gopher to executive.
Exactly, 100%. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dead Horse, for the support over on Patreon. And thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Patreon.com/turn2pagecast. Genuinely, we purchased all the books in this series. We have gotten the art. We're going to be doing the art for Dracula. We have music, like all that stuff. It's basically to pay off. So the Patreon support is very, very helpful. The main goal being to make it so this is a break-even production. That's the main goal. The main goal right now, we're not trying to make the buku bucks. None of that. If we could make this a break-even production, that would be incredible. So the support over on Patreon could help us do that. To then we could get to the point where we could consider, maybe putting some more effort and stuff like that in.
Yeah, we'll tell you when Buku Bucks is the consideration.
We'll tell you when Buku Bucks is the consideration. But for now, the consideration is break even would be cool. If you want to help the podcast, what's up?
You could also help us do that in a non-directly financial way outside of Patreon by subscribing to the YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/turn-to-page. Is it Turn-to-Page-cast on YouTube as well?
At Turn-to-Page-cast. They do that funny thing where you have to the handles are with an at now.
So youtube.com/@Turn-to-Pagecast. We're working our way up to 1,000 subscribers there so that we're capable of monetizing the channel, which I have no reason to know this outright, but I suspect YouTube has a little system behind the end where they're they slightly push more videos that are monetized as well because they get to pick up the...
I will sure say, in the many years on YouTube, when I've had videos that I didn't put ads on, they sure seem to not get pushed to as many subscription boxes. So, I just saying, I think it would mean something.
There's a lot of utility. Exactly. There's a lot of utility and discoverability that you could help us with by subscribing over on the YouTube channel if you have not yet done so.
Yeah. And also, if you just want us to shut up about saying the thing about 1,000 subscribers.
We'll shut up after 1,000.
When we hit 1,000, there's not really another marker that matters except for vanity reasons at that point. 1,000 is just what you need to actually get going, basically. But yeah, anyway, also leaving a review on any podcast streaming site you're listening on. And extremely importantly, this is the huge one. If you have a friend or someone in your life, a coworker, etc., that you think would be interested in this podcast in any of the specific seasons or just the podcast as a whole, sending them a link to, again, either the specific season you think will resonate with them the most, or just throwing the Goosebumps playlist at them and say, but alas, thank you for listening. I think that's going to do it here. And we will see you next week. Normally we take a little break after a season, but next week we're going to be hitting with a Halloween special. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Adios.